Does anybody have any questions or anything you'd like to add at this point? I can go on.
Well, as you said, and as we know that we need a guru for the spiritual growth, for spiritual development. But when we get or when we choose a guru, so that means guru guide us towards a specific way which he had followed. And by doing that, we are avoiding the other possibility of different kind of success in other areas, rest of the areas. So would you please tell me something about that? Like getting a guru, it will just take us on a specific way followed by him. But how about the other possibilities of?
You know, there are certain details where one guru may differ from another guru, and that's to be expected. I know that there was one great Acharya, Jiva Goswami, and another great Acharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and there was an argument there, or they were not perfectly in line concerning when there was flooding in the universe, after each Manu or only after certain Manus. So, and these are the greatest Acharyas. So there was some, disagreement there. But Prabhupada said there will be disagreement when it comes to certain details, but not when it comes to general principles. So that's why we want to see the lineage, because a spiritual master, a guru, he has tadvigyanartam sagarum eva bigachet samitpani shochiyam brahmanishtam, that he has a spiritual master who is in the line of disciplic succession and who is free from all the unwanted habits and behaviors of materialistic people. So that's what you want to look for. And then you want to see if what he is saying, or she is saying for that matter, differs from what that person's own spiritual master was teaching. Because there is a possibility, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining that I spoke this imperishable science to Vivaswan, the sun god, who then spoke to Manu, who then delivered it to Ikshvaku, who was the emperor of the world, this planet. But in due course of time, the message as it is appears to have been lost. So that can happen too. That's why you always have to be eyes wide open, not with eyes shut. And therefore, one of the injunctions is that the spiritual master is definitely testing the disciple, but the disciple also has his eyes open and he's looking to see, make sure that it's in line with the previous Acharya.
What does it mean? All gurus will bring you to the same goal, right?
Yeah, of course. That's the general principle. What is it?
Balarama is guru. Just, all gurus will bring to the same goal, just they have a little bit different details.
There will be different details, and especially for each individual. For example, someone may be more Brahminically inclined. So the guru may tell this particular disciple, I would like to see you engaged in more deity worship, because that's your tendency. Someone else not so Brahminically inclined, he may say, I just want you to make sure you chant your 16 rounds every day. That's my main consideration. So the emphasis may be different from one individual to the next in what he is expecting of you, because he wants you to reach your full potential. So that's why Prabhupada wrote many, many letters, 8,000 letters. And some of them were directed to a particular disciple according to that particular disciple's situation. And he was advising that particular person. But there is also general instruction. And that was meant for everyone. That's why the letters were, not all of them, but most of them were circulated very widely. Because Prabhupada he said that devotees are asking me the same question again and again and again. So he said, I'm putting it in this letter, and I want you to distribute this so it's available to the greater number of devotees. And that's how we found out so many things. That's how we found out about management, how to manage the temples. That's how we found out about preaching, what to say to people when we would introduce them to our books, to Krishna consciousness, and how husband and wife would interact, like we were talking, as devotees, how to raise children in Krishna consciousness. There were so many things, very important instructions that Prabhupada gave that he didn't want to just keep repeating again and again and again through his letters. So, this is general instruction. But, of course, anyone who is a guru, his instructions cannot deviate you from the goal, and by reintroducing impersonal concepts. It's got to be, top-notch, 100%, straight down the line, the message of the acharyas, the message of Shastra. The Shastra is like the absolute reference point. So, Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, what you're being taught should be confirmed by saintly persons also. So how many initiating spiritual masters can one have? And how many instructing spiritual masters can one have?
One initiating, it's called Diksha.
Yeah.
And many Shiksha Guru, which is instructing.
Can you have the same guru act as your Siksha and Diksha?
Yes.
Yeah. So who else can act as your Siksha guru? Someone who is transparent to your Diksha guru. In other words, repeating what he's heard, he has also heard and realized from the spiritual master who is initiating. That's an important instruction. That's a general instruction, something Prabhupada wanted us all to know, so that we wouldn't be, drawn away from his society by people outside. He even said, I don't want my students, my disciples, attending classes outside of our temples. He said to one disciple, if you find that the classes that are being given are not interesting, they're not deep enough, then you give class. I probably put the burden on that devotee. So you show us how it's done. You set the example. That's how we teach. That's the meaning of the word acharya. You teach by example. And it's a fact. It's a fact that if someone is able to give the class, that person should give class, because this is something that you don't keep like a miserly person, but you distribute it as a magnanimous person. That's what our line teaches us. Any other questions? That was a good question. I like that. Any other questions or any comments?
Very nice lecture. Thank you very much.
I am your servant, Dasosmi. I thank you for being here. It's very kind of you to come. Thank you. First we do Harinam Sankirtan, then we speak Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. First we're hearing the glories of Krishna, and then we're speaking about the same. First we have to hear from authorities, and by hearing and then chanting, just like in Kirtan, someone's chanting and everybody's hearing. And then it switches, then all his devotees are chanting and the lead singer is hearing. So that enables you to Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Remember the lotus feet of Krishna. Not to think in terms of impersonalism. Prabhupada kicked that out. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi. Impersonalism and voidism. He kicked it out with a very strong kick.
I have a question about...
Thank you for that compliment, thank you.
There was a comment which I don't quite recall about Shastra being the mother and
Shastra?
Guru being the father, or Krishna being the father of the knowledge. How does it work?
Yes, the Vedas are sometimes compared to a cow, and the spiritual master is milking the cow, and the disciple, Arjuna in this case, in Bhagavad Gita, is being fed the milk from the cow. So, yeah. Yes, we have many mothers, and the Vedic literature is sometimes considered one of those mothers. The wife of the guru, the wife of the king, the wife of the Brahmin, one's own actual mother, the cow, Mother Earth,
7.
and the Vedas, ultimately, because the mother nourishes the child. The Vedas are our source of nourishment in terms of transcendental knowledge. Yes, the Vedas, and the Vedas are given to us by the literary incarnation. Srila Vyasadeva, he compiled the Vedas. He was despondent because after compiling the Vedas, he still wasn't fulfilled. He didn't have that satisfaction of the soul. Yayatma suprasidati. So his spiritual master, and this is another point, that the spiritual master, if you are desiring to advance in Krishna consciousness, the spiritual master will come to you. You don't have to be traveling all over the world to find someone to teach you, but Krishna will make that arrangement. Prabhupada gave this example of, he said it's a very rare thing, actually, that you meet a pure devotee of Krishna in this lifetime. He said if on one coast, on one shore of the ocean, there's a turtle that sets out to cross the ocean, and on the other side there's a piece of wood that's floating with a knot hole, a hole. And at some point the turtle will come up and put his head through that hole. That's as rare, that's a very rare occurrence that would happen. And he said, and similarly, you can travel all throughout the universe in all the different species of life. The 8,400,000, is that the number? Species of life, until you finally come in contact with a pure devotee. So obviously someone is making that arrangement for you to meet the spiritual master.
It looks this way to me.
Exactly right. And if it looks that way, that's probably the way it is. You can take that to the bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
We at the banker now.
It's not an accident, meeting the spiritual master. But what happens is, when you meet a pure devotee, the way you respond to that meeting, it indicates where you were in your previous life. If you were engaged in some spiritual activity or sukriti, even pious activity, when you meet a pure devotee, it will humble you. You will feel, oh, this is not ordinary man. This is not, because that is called hellish intelligence. But because of your previous pious activity, you're appreciating, oh, this is a great leader. This is a great spiritual, saintly person. Okay? So that is not an accident. It is actually the greatest opportunity of your life. Many people met Prabhupada, for example, saw him, and I mean, they would say, there was one story right here in New York, the policeman saw Prabhupada in the airport, and he went over to his disciples and said, that man is glowing. Can't you see he's glowing? His effulgence. Somehow he was given the eyes to see that Prabhupada was no ordinary man. So, but many people even waiting in line right behind Prabhupada, just this close, or flying next to him on the airplane, had no idea, who is he? So it was not their time. Things happen at the right time in your life when you're ready. And Krishna will send. He will make that arrangement. And I've seen that on Harinam. We go out and chant. And I've gone out in all the major cities of Europe is where I became a devotee there. And I would see people come over, watch us chant, follow us back to the temple, sit down, listen to a class, take prasadam, and move in and never leave. I've seen that happen because it was their time. And they were open, receptive to the blessings which comes down like rain. Prabhupada was describing how when there's a rain cloud that pours rain on any surface, doesn't distinguish. It'll come down on the land, the earth, which can absorb the water. It'll fall in the ocean, which doesn't need the water. It'll fall on rocks, on top of buildings, and everywhere. But similarly, the mercy of the spiritual master is available, and it's pouring down. So we just have to be the proper vessel to accept it, the proper recipient to absorb it. And those are the devotees. Those are the people that become surrendered souls. The more you surrender, the more Krishna bestows upon you his mercy, his blessings, the transcendental knowledge, the association of devotees, understanding your relationship with him, and purified by the worship of his deity form. This is a great benediction. This movement is the benediction moon. Just like when you're tired at the end of the day and you want to feel refreshed, you sit out maybe on the porch and the moon is glowing, the full moon is you're just absorbing its rays and feeling soothed. It has a soothing effect. Similarly, to see the form of Shri Shri Gaur Nitai in the temple has a soothing effect. That's why the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahoditao Godadaye Pushpabantao Chitrao Sandhao Tamonadao. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda are transcendental brothers, and just like the sun and moon that rise on the same horizon at the same time, that these two brothers are bestowing benediction upon all. So just, Prabhupada used to say, here's Krishna, take it, come on, take it. It was a challenge. And some people felt, he really cares. He really wants me to become a devotee. He wants to help me turn my life around. So, you want to latch on Prabhupada's lotus feet. That's how we felt. Anywhere he went, we wanted to go, wanted to be there, knowing, however, that he would appreciate it more if we would go in the other direction and open a temple for Krishna, just like here. This is something that would be very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada at any time, whether he was still living among us, walking among us, or after he entered the Mahasamadhi. This is very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. So that means your life is successful. And that's how you know that Krishna is pleased. Prabhupada was asked, how do we know when Krishna is pleased? And he said, when you see the spiritual master is pleased, then you know. So